The two groups of applicants may have similar education, skills and experience, but the first group of job candidates with ethnic-sounding names are likely to face name bias and receive fewer responses from employers in Canada. What is name bias? The names of job candidates may affect the hiring decisions. Conscious or unconscious bias happens when an opinion about candidates is based on their name. Often it is a negative view. Unconscious bias causes us to see and act in ways that reinforce stereotypes even when we know that type of behavior is not consistent with our values. The Toronto Symphony Orchestra was an innovator in blind recruitment. In 1980, musicians auditioned behind a screen. The hiring committee can hear the performance, but not see the individual. It produced transformative changes. Now the orchestra, which was made up almost entirely of white men in the 1970s, is almost half female and much more diverse. Aspire Employment Services. Since 2019, the YWCA Metro Vancouver has been delivering the Aspire Employment Program designed to support racialized refugee women to find meaningful employment. YWCA used Linktree to connect employers with their job-seeking participants. Resumes of Aspire program participants are posted on the Linktree. Employers are invited to the website to pre-screen candidates they want to interview. The names of the candidates and addresses are not listed on the resumes. It is anonymous. Employers only see the initials of the candidates and the catchment area of their residence or the Aspire program office address.
Where it was more like it didn't have any personal information, it had only a first letter of the first name, first letter of the last name, and all of their like the whole resume after. So that also prevented the barrier of any bias of if you hear a different name, like for example my name, which is very not Canadian. The contact information, it would be ours, so that they would connect with us wanting to meet with that client. So there's no breach of privacy whatsoever to the client. And the employer would have, the luxury of looking at all of the resumes, and they would choose who they want to interview. And we would be in contact with the client so that we can we can be the liaison between them.
Although the candidates are racialized newcomer women, presenting just the initials on the resumes reduce further bias that may be associated with their name, religion, or culture.
You will have an ES applying for a job. You don't know what I look like, or you will only look at my qualifications. And then you would be able to value that, right? To put that into consideration. Is that a good fit or not?
What outcomes emerged from the Linktree app? Aspire program staff report that they have been contacted by employers who visited the site and contacted the program for more information about potential candidates.
It was absolutely effective. Because you would be able to reach out to more employers, right? Without, sending, we have only one. So those are the list of participants that we have that have those skills. You can take a look at all of them without having any bias towards anyone or having any favoritism.
Spreading the tool to other newcomer employment programs.
Absolutely. We found that this was very, very helpful, and we're looking at implementing this in many of our, if not all of our newcomer and refugee programming.
What research tells us? Studies in Canada and the US show that job applicants with ethnic-sounding names are less likely to get a response than more Anglo-Saxon-sounding names, despite having the same experience and academic credentials. A 2004 study by Bertrand and Molanathan, published in the American Economic Review, found that applicants with white-sounding names got callbacks 50% more often than applicants with black-sounding names. In a Canadian study, researcher Phil Oriopoulos sent out 13,000 resumes to online job postings in Toronto. The names were different, but the credentials similar. The findings suggested significant discrimination by name, ethnicity, and city of experience. Ethnic-sounding names got fewer callbacks. A follow-up study to better understand why this type of discrimination occurs found applicants with English-sounding names are 35% more likely to receive callbacks compared to applicants with Chinese or South Asian names. The researchers believe that subconscious or implicit discrimination could be occurring based on their research findings and discussions with recruiters. Recruiters do not try to discriminate. They want the best hire, but subconscious beliefs and attitudes may influence assessments and decisions. For example, the name of the applicant or country of origin may trigger assumptions, bias, and concerns about the individual's ability, especially related to language skills, which might make it difficult to assess the other strengths in the resume. Recruiters also need to review resume quickly. This may further increase bias towards candidates with foreign-sounding names. They may not have time to test the language abilities of a qualified candidate with a foreign-sounding name, or investigate further about credentials earned outside of Canada when they have the option to select a candidate with an English-sounding name instead. The researchers suggest several ways to address both overt racism and unconscious bias in the recruiting process. The researchers suggest removing names from job applications. This is known as blind recruitment. They also suggest training to help recruiters be more aware and knowledgeable about possible bias and other ways to recognize language ability. Blind recruitment is one innovative solution. There have been other approaches. Much has been done to address unconscious bias in the recruiting process, including equity, diversity, and inclusion policies and practice. But more can be done by both service providers and employers to help employers gain from this talent pool and newcomers integrate more successfully into the Canadian labor market.